There are 8 different types of lightworkers on the planet right now. And this video is going to share with you the descriptions of each and every one. Not so you can inflate your ego or to think you're somehow superior to other people, but so that you can embrace yourself, so that you can really allow yourself to be who you came to be. A lot of the lightworkers are kind of spread out and find themselves among people and situations that cause them to question themselves, to doubt their instincts, to doubt their intuition, and therefore oftentimes to hesitate, to hold themselves back from the work, the important work they came to do. If you watch videos like this, then you at the core know there is a collective shift happening right now on planet Earth. And if you're watching this video in particular, you know you came here to help. And my intention for this video is to help give you what I've observed to be the 8 very unique different ways of expressing this light work, so that you can hopefully identify 1 or 2 of them and do it more so to the fullest, to not feel so alone, to maybe confirm what you've already been telling yourself intuitively. So thank you so much for watching, my friends. Happy to dive into the video, and I'll see you inside. The first type of light worker I wanted to discuss is what I've come to call the lighthouses. These people are just like a lighthouse. They came here to simply give off light, not necessarily to do anything formally. In fact, this can be the thing that trips these folks up. A lot of times they feel like they're not doing enough, like there's something else they need to be doing. But the purpose of that type of person's existence isn't really necessarily to do anything. Not that they're going to do absolutely nothing, but it doesn't mean they need to write a book or to force themselves out to do anything in particular necessarily. And just to know that their presence is a lot. You know, the human heart gives off an electromagnetic field that extends 3 feet outside of the body. The energy these lighthouses emanate is very important right now on the planet because it's balancing out the collective energy. And if it sounds like too woo-woo, just think about it for a second. Have you ever been around somebody who's in a really bad mood? And they might not be saying anything or acting out outlandishly. You can just tell this person's like in a mood. In fact, my family and I were getting ice cream the other day. And my whole family was talking about this one guy who kind of like almost like he thought my family was taking too long to order their ice cream, which they may have been. But he kind of came up and he kind of was just like this. He put his arms up on the counter and he wasn't saying anything. He wasn't doing anything, but it was very obvious. This guy was like really mad, really upset. And what does that do? It makes us feel kind of uncomfortable. It makes us kind of shy away. Just to show how infectious someone's energy can be. And this can also work and does work in the exact opposite way. Have you met somebody who just is a bright spirit, you might say? A light to be around. It feels good, safe, uplifting. That's you. And that's the effect you have on people. And the former character I described is a pretty common thing. There's a lot of negative emotions stored in human beings right now that they are carrying around unconsciously, emanating this distorted, low vibe frequency. There's no judgment. Look at the setup we've all found ourselves in. It's not easy to raise our vibration and things like that. Most people don't even know it's an option, but you do. You're already into this stuff. You've probably been doing a lot of self-work over the last several years, maybe even decades. And though you may have not found like your grand purpose, you're already living it. Just being yourself, just being here now at this unique time in history. The second type I've noticed I call the revealers of truth. I've met quite a few people who feel very strongly that the truth needs to come out. People need to know the truth. And if you watch videos like this, you know there's a lot of truth that most people, the mainstream, is completely oblivious to. The truth about the institutions, the government, the controlling systems on the planet. the truth about extraterrestrials, the ancient history, ancient civilizations, the truth about the mass manipulation going on. There's a lot of, I'm not going to go into it. That's not my purpose necessarily, but there are a lot of people who feel this strong, like, obligation, you might say, to do their part and to share this type of knowledge. Some good prime examples you might have seen is like David Icke, even David Wilcock, and there's many others. But it's a tricky path. I'll say it's not one I feel aligned with on a personal level, but I respect it and understand the need for it, because it is kind of like you're kind of diving into the negativity, and it is kind of there's a lot to unearth there with that. And God bless the people who feel called to do that, because it doesn't seem like the easiest path, but it is a necessary thing, and it's something that the world needs. And it's an interesting thing I've also observed, because a lot of times there's like judgment. I personally, as you'll hear about all these different ones, I think there's a purpose to all of them. There's like another version, which I haven't really talked about yet, who are very like angelic, very like high vibe, don't prefer to really even acknowledge negativity. They feel it's like unnecessary. It's like, why go down that path? Why even subject yourself to that? And there's value in that as well, but there can be this like judgment. But from where I'm standing, there seems to be value in both, in all of these different ways of expressing this fundamental purpose, which is to uplift humanity. There's a lot of things that have to get done. Spreading love is one thing, but also sharing the truth and putting it out there so people can finally wake up and make new choices. That is also important. So anyways, if this is something that relates with you, you probably find that you love conspiracy theories. You love, and they're not even really conspiracy theories, many of them. You love learning about some of the unspoken about truths that have been underneath the rug for a long time, and you feel like it's essential that these things come to light. And this is something you might find yourself dedicating your life to. Number 3, I couldn't think of a cool name for them, but what comes to mind is love and light. People who just want to spread love and light and joy. Not so much what I was talking about in the first one. The first one is more just like your baseline energy. It's helpful in balancing out the collective. The lovers in light are people who are just very like happy-go-lucky, I would say. Very kind of like the opposite of what I was just discussing. I know I have a couple of friends that are like that, and they're wonderful to be around. They just yeah, they have, the one I know in particular, I'm not going to say their name, but they have like an almost angelic energy. And if you think of an angel is just this like very high level embodiment of love. As you climb up these like levels of consciousness, there becomes very little use for rebellion and battle and conflict and unearthing the negativity so people can see. It's more like from a high perspective. It's all love and it's all light. It's all one. And there are people that seem to kind of personify that and embody that, and they give it off as just another perspective. And these kind of people, they tend to oftentimes, I don't want to say like recluse, but they find alternative ways of living. These are the people that want to maybe live in a van or have like a big piece of property. The one I know in particular, she lives like on a big piece of property, and she does her work and everything, but she has a very like disconnected relationship with like the negativity of the planet, so that she can like maintain this kind of high vibe, tapped into love type of state. And these kind of folks, they're not going to necessarily always resonate with the former I was talking about before. They might understand the value of it, but it's something they don't feel called to do, and it just feels inauthentic and unnecessary for them even. And I think there's also value in that. A lot of us, even me, I'm kind of a deep diver. I like to dive into the shadow. I'm curious. It's something that interests me, and sometimes these people can come into your life and just remind you it's okay just to lighten up. There's always something to do. I know you like your mission, Vic, but hey, man, why don't we just enjoy the vibe, enjoy the now? Let's tell some jokes. Let's laugh. Let's go for a walk. Let's just play around. Why all this? Why take everything so seriously? So that's kind of the vibe I'm referring to, and it is very much needed, obviously. Another one I don't hear talked about very much, I call incognito. and I've met some of them, and maybe you have as well, people who, from my observation, for what it's worth, are like clearly like Lightworker type of folks, souls, but they don't know it. They don't find themselves watching videos like this. They don't have any, they don't like know. They're just kind of living a normal life, unaware of the impact they're having on people in a very practical way. What comes to mind is a buddy I met when I was getting clean from drugs. His name was Guy. And this guy, he made everybody feel like his best friend. He was so warm and sincere and kind. He'd always be like, "What up, kid? How you doing?" And he'd give me a big hug. And he'd look at me like, so happy to see me, and he meant it. It was not a phony. He was not like, he had no agenda. And he knew everybody. Everybody liked this guy. Everybody knew him. He would always go and he'd greet the newcomers, which came in by like the day. Multiple people would come in, and literally we couldn't go anywhere without people just, "Guy, what up?" And he'd be like, "Hey," And, he'd probably, if he saw this, he'd probably think, he wouldn't understand probably what I'm talking about. He'd probably think it's a little bit weird, honestly. He's not someone that, again, formally knows any of this stuff, but nonetheless, he's living the life. He's out there spreading light in every step he takes, and it's a beautiful thing. Of course, you have the healers and the transformers. That's what I would call myself. Not so much a healer per se, but someone who is extremely passionate about transforming individuals, helping people heal and release their traumas, helping people find and discover their purpose, helping people come into their power, helping people uncover the true essence of what they are and clear away some of this conditioning and energetic baggage and trauma and debris. That is something I've been fascinated with for a very, very long time. And this is like the people who are into the healing arts, the people who have psychic skills and abilities, the people who want to become coaches and spiritual practitioners, breathwork facilitators, the people that really just want to help heal people. And this is, I think, very important, obviously, because I think a lot of what we're seeing on the planet right now is the byproduct of people who are not fully conscious, who are being driven by their unprocessed energy and emotion. And to everyone's defense, like, were you taught this? I wasn't taught this. I'm 42 years old. I was not taught until I just like sought it out myself. I was not taught how to like have emotional intelligence. I wasn't taught that, when you're feeling something intensely, it's important to allow yourself to feel it and to express it in a constructive way. It's very important not to hold on to stuff, unspoken things. And it's also very important to know how to self-heal. We have it. I've been a breathwork facilitator for years. We can literally heal our traumas with just breathing. You put on a playlist and breathe, you can go extremely deep. This is something that if people knew, they could not only be like happier and healthier, but far more conscious individuals making more conscious choices that align with the will and the benefit of the whole, and we would have a completely different scene. That's obviously my passion, is helping people with that. And maybe a lot of people who watch me do that as well. In fact, if that's you, coming up in a few days, depending on when you see this, my friend Aaron Dowdy and I are going to be putting on a 2-week free program that teaches healers, psychics, aspiring coaches, people how to do that to the fullest capacity by turning it into a business. And that's kind of what I've done. If I didn't have like a business, which so many people like judge, I wouldn't have the reach I have now. I wouldn't have the impact. I wouldn't be able to dedicate my entire life to this mission. I'd have a job. You would see me a lot less here on YouTube. So what we found is having a business can help these types of folks in particular carry out their mission to way more of a degree. And if this is something you want to learn for free, I'll leave a link down below and you can check it out. No pressure. This is not your thing. Totally cool. But for those interested, check it out. It's a pretty good opportunity. Another one I call the untouchables. These are people who come in with kind of a clean slate. Dolores Cannon talks about it. She called it, decades ago, she called them the new children. People who come to the planet without karma to work out. And they're like simply higher level souls that maybe ordinarily wouldn't choose to come to such a dense place, but have chosen to do so just because they can help. And these kind of people are these are the people who kind of make it look easy, honestly. These are the people who just are like, or don't have necessarily a big like awakening transformational process they need to go through. They're coming in and they're already tapped in. They don't have a lot of healing to do. They're literally just like kind of where we all might be in the next like 20 years. They're like there now. And a lot of them are children. And they're just awake. They know who they are. They know their power. They see right through all the bullshit. And they're going to just naturally live lives that are very different and very much needed. They're going to be the ones with the innovations and the creative ideas and the solutions. They're going to be the ones that naturally don't buy into all the lies that you and I have been sort of sold since we were little children from the mainstream media and all that. And these are they're like rebel souls, but not necessarily even in like a rebellious, intense way. They're just awake and aware, and they're going to conduct themselves very differently. And they don't have to contend with so much of their inner angst as you and I. You know, for me to like do this and to do my thing out there in the world, it's like I've had to work on myself a lot. I've got a lot of healing to do, and I'm not done. I still do have a lot of healing to work through. I have to contend with my doubts and my fears and my conditioning. And these types of folks, they're just kind of like, it's like more smooth sailing for them. God bless them. It'd be nice, but it's also very hopeful, because the more of these types of people coming on the planet, and they seem to be coming on very quickly in these younger generations, it's kind of showing you this rebalancing that's kind of taken place. And finally, the ETs, the people who are maybe already like think they come from other places and maybe don't really feel like they fit in here on planet Earth necessarily, and maybe have a nerdy interest and passion for extraterrestrials. That would be me. I do feel like I have roots here on planet Earth. I'm not saying anything like too out there, but I do feel very drawn to extraterrestrials. I've been listening to Bashar. He's a channeler for probably since 2011, 10 or 11, and it's always resonated with me. And I'm personally like excited and hopeful that the ETs finally come, and it's gonna, I think, make a big difference in a lot of different ways. And it's just the people who maybe have experiences as well. You know, I've also had experiences, different types of encounters in the dream time, during psychedelics, during even my waking consciousness at times. And just, you know, I'm like one person, and you might be as well, who kind of know they exist and know they're here and know that it is possible to connect with them, which can create kind of a win-win type of dynamic. And I can't prove that to you. It's just something I know for myself because I've experienced it. And I think, and you see other people out there online as well who are like very much into this, very much like almost have like an ET energy, I would like observe, honestly. And I think that's going to be a huge catalyst for this transformation in consciousness is the extraterrestrials. And there's some people who are just really into it and sort of work within that in a variety of different ways. And God bless them. It's also another one that's not easy. You know, for so long, people were ridiculed for even thinking about this. In fact, I'm watching the show Resident Alien, kind of a funny show on Netflix, and it's all about this. And there's this one woman who has made it her mission to basically like work within the ET space and get as far as she can with her organization, because when she was growing up, when she was little, her and her father saw a UFO. And then when her father tried to talk about it and tell people, even though they had pictures and it was like a very clear thing, he was ridiculed so much that he eventually ended his life. Anyway, it's a TV show. But the point is, it's like, that's kind of the backlash that most people were experiencing for a very long time. And now it's like seeping into the mainstream. This show I'm talking about, the final season just came out on Netflix like a few days ago, honestly. And it's like, it talks about the mantis beings. It talks about like the blue avians. It goes really deep, and it's like a mainstream show on Netflix. So I think it's pretty cool that how far we've come as a collective in terms of warming up to the idea that we're not alone and that we might benefit ourselves from humbling ourselves and realizing that fact that we're not alone. The things we do don't just impact us, they impact the future, they impact other civilizations perhaps, and it's kind of like a humbling thing to contemplate, if you ask me. But anyway, if you relate with all the stuff I said, if you're nodding your head like, yeah, bro, I'm into this, and then some, then you might be one of those types of light workers. But the final thing I want to end with is this. This is something I see in the communities out there, and one of the reasons why I don't even like talking about this very much. And I made the mistake myself, which is this: allowing all this to go to my head, to creating an inflated spiritual ego of, I am a light worker, I am here to help, I don't have much karma, I am an ET. All this kind of stuff is a slippery slope. The ego loves it. The ego loves any opportunity to one up other people, to stand out, to stand superior. And this can be like ego candy that can create a lot more separation, a lot less compassion, a lot more judgment than if this information wasn't even being put out there. So I kind of put this out there with a caveat of, one, I'm just a YouTuber. What the hell do I know? This is literally just a combination of my research, my personal experiences, working with other people, my intuition. Is it fact? No, this is not fact. This is just my perspective. Two, these are just labels. This is just a list I came up with. It's based off of, again, research. I researched Dolores Cannon, and she's got her 3 waves of volunteers, and this and that. But really, this is just something I came up with. There's nothing concrete to this. There's nothing really to add to your identity here. It's not that important. All of us are a lot more than anything I said. I personally believe there's a lot more to the story than we even know. I think we know like about this much compared to what's out there, and also what we are, what our mission is. I think a lot of that is going to be revealed more and more in the future, and it doesn't do us any good to kind of get inflated with any of this stuff. This is just, I honestly, I do this because a lot of the people who I'm referring to, just like that TV show I described, they think there's something wrong with them. They feel misunderstood. They don't feel like they don't belong here. But if you resonate with this kind of stuff, and I bet you do, some of you, if you're still watching at a deep level, then maybe there is some truth to this. Either way, whether this is all nonsense or not, you know what? It allows me to embrace helping people for a living more so. It allows me to really take seriously my own personal development so I can be the best, most conscious, most authentic version of myself. And at the end of the day, if this is all just, if I'm completely mistaken, oh well, at least I'm living my best life. And this can sometimes help us give ourselves permission to embrace who we already know we are at the core.